This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Well, on that note, let's get going. We're talking about Against All Odds 2011. Yesterday, we talked about Against All Odds 2012. Boy, what an interesting year TNA had between 11 and 12. We're coming off Genesis 11. We covered that last month in the archive, so be sure to check that out. We have a new TNA champion in Ken Anderson. You and Kurt had our Double J MMA exhibition. And now, unbelievably, your wife, Karen, is about to return as an on-screen character. And it's reported in the Torch that coming off the Genesis pay-per-view, there was a lot of concern about the state of the company. Here's exactly what Wade wrote. The recent behavior of Kurt Angle at the TNA Genesis pay-per-view and Jeff Hardy's issues at the TNA Final Resolution pay-per-view, and now the hiring of Matt Hardy, have left some people within the company questioning the decisions made by management. Quote, everyone was talking about it, one locker room source stated in regards to Matt Hardy's first week with the company. It was, quote, oh my God, what happened to Matt Hardy, end quote. The source knew Hardy prior to his TNA debut and expressed personal concern. Quote, he was a different guy before now. He's just not that guy anymore. He's very hazy. He's turning into Jeff Hardy. He was always different, but Matt Hardy's in a daze. Jeff Hardy's in a daze. Kurt Angle's in a daze. And Rob Van Dam is stoned all day, end quote. The source acknowledged that each of those wrestlers have good days and bad days, but did express frustration that upper management isn't doing enough to solve the problem. Quote, Dixie just acts oblivious. The guys try to hide from her when they're messed up, but Jeff went to her when they wanted to send him home, and she said he could stay. So that's the end of the quote. That's the end of the report. But boy, if you're reading between the lines here, it looks like the perception amongst some of the folks on the inside is that, man, TNA maybe needs to get their house in order. Do you remember this?
You know, Conrad, diving into the research, shout out to Derek. Excellent job, as always, except minus the Austin 316 episode, but that's extenuating circumstances. But no, you know what, Conrad, looking at the research, a lot of things crystallized in my brain about this time frame, and it just smacked me in the back of the head. This was a time in my life. Me and Karen had been married about a year, but I was putting in more office hours than I had since startup mode, that first couple of years. I was in the office, just international and live events. I was consumed by that. And of course, wife and 5 kids at home, all that was going on. But as it relates to the majority of all that we're going to talk about today, I say this, I was just talent. I wouldn't get formats ahead of time. I was literally show up and sort of here's what's going on. Of course, I had conversations with Russo, and we'll get into that. He would reach, but just like he reached out to a bunch of other talent. But I don't remember anything about Kurt. However, Wade reported not being a good frame of mind. Me and Matt Hardy, since all this, we've had our ups and downs, but we're in a great place now. But him coming in, Matt was at a low place in his life. But at the time, I wasn't, later some legal situations came out. But at the time when he first came in, I was oblivious to that, but it was none of my business. I showed up and did my job through as a talent. And then Jeff, he's always had the roller coaster of that. And diplomatically, RVD has always been RVD. Like, nothing has changed with him.
Well, something else is changing. Karen is returning to TV after a 2-year absence. She's going to be a part of the ongoing feud between yourself and Kurt Angle. And of course, this is all part of the fallout from the Genesis pay-per-view. And Wade would say TNA is playing up the idea of, quote, real life tension, end quote, between Jarrett and Angle related to Karen's divorce from Angle and subsequent marriage to Jarrett. And the tagline is a very special family reunion. All right, Jeff, we've never really got into this. So how does this come to be? Whose idea is it to bring Karen to TV? Is this your idea? Is this something Dixie pitches? How does Karen come back to TV?
That's almost a joke. You didn't really something Dixie pitches. Now, come on. And that is really the leaping off point of this entire episode, in that I will never forget this phone call from Vince Russo. Never. Because in 2010, I don't want to say I kind of floundered, but I did. Hogan had come in and Dixie had gone to her father, and our prophet in 2009 and 2008, and now she had made the big power play and spent a ton of money, and in 2010 there was no ROI. Matter of fact, it was just a whole lot more expenses on the books. Well, as the end of 2010 and year end rolled around, and looking at, okay, this happened in 2010. It's the old YTD, year to date, and YOY, year over year. When you looked at 2009 versus 2010, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't. And the ratings were not up. They weren't really down, but they were still anywhere from 1.3 or 4 million to 1.6 or 7 million, sort of in that window. So Russo called me and said, hey, now to defend Russo a little bit here, or a lot, whatever, he knew the reality. He knew as well as anybody that there was no animosity between me, Kurt, and Karen, that we were raising Kurt and Karen's kids in my house. And, Kurt had visited the house and did a Halloween one year, and I don't know if it was this year or whatever, but there was no real life drama. Was it Shangri-La and all that kind of crap? No, but it was, hey, Jeff, and here's Russo, we've got an idea. And I go, oh yeah, sure, Vince. What did Dixie say about this? She's on board. I said, okay. What about Hulk? He doesn't care. And I'm like, so what's the real story? And he goes, bro, ratings, bro. I'm like, oh, so you're circling back to this? Yes, we are. And I said, well, I think the most important decision maker right here is Kurt. Where's Kurt stand? I've had the conversation. He's up for it. I said, okay, then you probably need to do your job.
Get even more from the hottest new podcast going, My World with Jeff Jarrett, over at adfreeshows.com. Let me get granular here for a minute, folks. Not only can you get the entire My World episode library with 0 ads, new episodes come your way each week early, ad-free, and on video starting at just $9 a month. We've also got tons of exclusive My World bonus content waiting for you, plus unique interactive experiences with your old pal, Double J. You get to jump on and ask Jeff questions, and if you joined us in Chicago this year for Top Guy Weekend, you got to hang out the entire weekend. 100% the best value in all of wrestling. Strut on over to adfreeshows.com right now to sign up.
And, Karen is going to get paid and work out her own deal and contract and all that. So we had to work out the payments and all that kind of stuff. And that was done with Vince and Dixie. And I don't remember all the specifics, but the thing that just shined a light into it, it's no secret. I was oblivious to how deep it was, but Dixie despised Karen. And for her to bring Karen on as a character of the show, I went, this is really interesting. So Vince made the call.
Wait a minute. Dixie despised Karen?
Yes. I knew that. I know that now. I didn't know that then.
Why do you say that? Where does that come from? I've never heard that. You've never told me that.
Well, some things I don't tell you, but I mean, when I saw this, because that's what came out of that phone call with Russo, I'm like, okay, so you got to, you're calling me, but at the end of the day, I'm a talent. And what am I going to say? No. I mean, yeah, but if my kids aren't involved, it's let's go do a job. But you got a lot of other decision makers in this. We can make it work. I've seen in my entire career, seen lots of quote unquote uncomfortable situations, but and people would come to me and tell me different things, and my delusional optimism, oh no, Dixie didn't say that. Oh yeah, she did. And again, Conrad, what I know now, I had no idea back then. So I'm looking at it 10 years removed from this, but she didn't like her from day one.
Well, just to get us back on track, there's lots of rumor and innuendo out there, but just to set the record straight, this was all business. This was all creative. I know they're saying they're playing off the quote unquote real life heat, but there is no real life heat. You and Kurt are fine. Yeah. And what's interesting is I feel like we get peppered with those questions on both Kurt's show and your show here. But, you know, we're not here to talk about everybody's personal lives. We're here to talk about business. But there it is. There was and is no heat. Jeff and Kurt are fine and have been the whole time. So, you know, it's just life. It's weird that people want to, and I get it. We're in this gossip, clickbait, TMZ culture, but that's just not reality.
But I've said this so many times, even with the Dixie storyline or a Sting storyline, or even the Hogan storyline, or whatever storyline, if you can take a shred of reality, and the real reality was of the Kurt, Karen, Jeff situation, sure, it's reality based. I mean, it's there is reality, but if you can take a shred of it and then blow it up to the umpteenth degree, generally you make really good television. I mean, look at the NWO angle. Hogan was WWF. Hall and Nash were WWF. They came down and invaded the Southern wrestling promotion and were taken over the new world over. Bingo, it clicked for a lot of other reasons, but still, it was a shred of reality.
How was Karen? Was Karen receptive to being an on-screen character? Did she like the idea and the creative? Is that something she's comfortable with?
Yeah. I mean, you look at her work in, what would that be? End of 08, 09, or 08, whenever that was, with AJ and those kind of, you know, when she came in the first time, she's a hell of a performer. And I know that sounds, and yes, I am biased, but our buddy 83 Weeks, Mr. Bischoff, has complimented her. But Karen is a really good actress and knows, she grew up and understood, you know, she grew up as a wrestling fan like all of us, but also understood, and she was a fan of Sherry Martel and Miss Elizabeth. And so just watching it as a fan, and her and her grandfather, the grandfather that just recently passed, he was a wrestling fan, so he got to watch it. So Karen understood from a character point of view, and then that's some of the things people don't know about Karen is when she's given a task, and no matter what it is, but in this role, she really, really wanted to do her very, very best. And, you know, her and Russo, they had a good relationship on producer and talent. And so she loved it and dove into the character.
Let's talk about some other news that's going on in this era. There's reports in the Torch that Angelina from the Jersey Shore might be coming in to work with Cookie here in TNA. Cookie, we know, is Becky Bayless. What'd you think of that idea? Let's siphon off some of the pop culture of the Jersey Shore.
Again, me not in day-to-day or even weekly contact with Spike. I knew it was somewhat Viacom driven, MTV and all that, but I wasn't, Conrad. I had, you know, very little knowledge of any of this.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.